Just before we get into this video, guys, if you want to follow me on social media, on Twitter and Instagram, the links are here. And if you also want to support me on Patreon as well and help out my channel, that would be absolutely awesome as well. But let's get on with the video. Hey guys, Wingy here and welcome to another video. Now today I'm going to be doing the next part of my DC versus Marvel series. The last time I spoke about the TV shows and I gave the win to DC. Today, however, we're going to be talking about the movies. Now this one, again, kind of like the TV one, is probably going to be an easy decision, and going into this video you guys are probably expecting which one is going to win. However, you could be wrong. You're not wrong. You're totally right. But I also want to explain why that is the case. So we'll start off with Marvel this time and talk about why I think their movies are either good or bad. Spoiler alert, they're pretty fucking good. I think what Marvel have managed to do is something that nobody else has done ever, which is create a universe of movies that are all linked. I think what they've done is essentially make a TV series, but with movies. It sounds like a really weird, bizarre idea, but yet a simple one that no one's done before. Like, why has no one really thought of that before? Or at least, why has it never been successful before? I think the benefit of something like Marvel is because you've got so many different characters and so many different stories that you can tell, it's easier to do that. Characters like Iron Man, Thor, Captain America, Spider-Man coming into it eventually as well. These are characters that people get invested in, and I think if you build up these characters over a course of a series, and it all ramps up to a big finale, which in this case would be Infinity War and Endgame, people are going to flock to go and see that. What you have with the Marvel Cinematic Universe is a bunch of movies that, by their own right, are fantastic. Not all of them, some of them are better than others. When you put them into a universe that feels like it's a universe, it doesn't feel like Iron Man is his own thing, and then Thor is his own thing, and then Captain America is his own thing, and then they just team up. It doesn't really feel like that. The universe as a whole has little bits and pieces of itself scattered around these movies, so when they do come together, it feels natural and it feels organically done. But like I say, it's not just the fact that they've made an amazing cinematic universe, it's the fact that they also made great movies. I think what people are very quick to forget is that whilst they are at the forefront of the public consciousness now, characters like Iron Man, Captain America, Thor, Doctor Strange, these were not characters that people knew. These weren't characters like a Spider-Man, for example, that everybody knew about. They were just B-list comic book characters, and I know there's going to be some die-hard comic book fans out there that are going to be like, how dare you say that? But it's true. These weren't popular characters. They weren't characters that everybody loved and everybody would rush out and buy a t-shirt of. People wouldn't even know. About 20 years ago, if you said, oh yeah, Tony Stark, people would have been like, I don't know who that is. Now you say Tony Stark, everybody knows who it is. I think another thing that makes Marvel stand out, particularly with the MCU, is the fact that they have got some incredible diversity with what they do, and people are going to say, but it's mostly white, but that's not what I'm on about. I'm on about the types of movies that they are. You've got a film like Iron Man, for example, which is dealing with terrorism. You've got a World War movie with Captain America, the First Avenger. You've got a more fantastical fantasy movie with Thor. Guardians of the Galaxy is very sci-fi. You've got so many different genres and tones and things that you can do with these characters, and yet, like I say, they've still managed to make a universe out of it. The fact that they've made so many different movie genres out of these characters as well is incredible. But you get what I mean. These movies are all over the place in terms of what they offer you. Not every single MCU movie is identical. A lot of them follow a formula, yes. A lot of them follow similar sort of tropes. Some of the villains are quite generic, are quite weak, and are very cookie cutter. But in terms of like stylistically, some of the directors that they have brought in and their visions and their styles are totally different from one another. You know, whether it's the Russos or whether it's Joss Whedon, whether it's Jon Favreau, like the direction that these movies have gone in, they all have their own unique individual style, yet it's still in keeping with the MCU itself. I will talk about other Marvel movies like some of the other Spider-Man movies and Ghost Rider and stuff, but I honestly think that the MCU is strong enough to stand on its own 2 feet in this fight. I really, really do. So let's go on to DC then. Now obviously this is something that is a little bit more controversial because people don't like DC movies, and that annoys me because I generally do like the DC movies. In terms of them attempting their own universe, I think it's safe to say that that has failed. I think DC pretty much realised that they were way behind Marvel, and considering that comic book wise, the characters that they've got at their disposal, I think DC really could have matched Marvel. They really could have. But I think because they sort of had to wrap up the Dark Knight trilogy, they were kind of just like, well, we need Batman if we're doing our own universe, so we're gonna have to finish this first, however long that's gonna take, and then we've got to start up this universe, and we've got to cast everyone, and it's just, fuck it, let's just have Batman and Superman fight like the second film, and then Wonder Woman shows up and we kill off Superman, and blah 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 blah. And it's just like, you should have just had a little bit of patience. I think DC really did jump the gun. I think they wanted instant success. But you've got to remember that Marvel didn't have that. Marvel didn't really start gaining major traction until the Avengers. Really. I mean, the other movies were popular, but look at the numbers that the Avengers did. It's one of the highest grossing movies of all time. They built up to that movie. DC didn't have the patience to do that. I think they started off really well with Man of Steel. It's a movie that I will defend to high heaven because I genuinely really love that movie, and I was excited for Batman vs Superman. And whilst I do think that the extended cut is definitely a better movie, I think objectively you have to look at Batman v Superman as a failure because it didn't really deliver on what you would want from Batman versus Superman, do you know what I mean? Then of course Justice League just came out of nowhere, and bearing in mind, right, how many times had we seen Aquaman, Cyborg, The Flash? Who cared about those characters in Justice League, seriously? And I know that Aquaman has gone on and had a semi-successful movie, and The Flash has appeared in the TV shows now, as in the Ezra Miller one. I don't know what Cyborg's doing, but no one really cares about those characters. But that's just in terms of building their own universe, which, like I say, didn't go so well. However, when it comes to individual movies, I think DC overall have actually been quite successful, and I think the Dark Knight trilogy is a prime example of this. I would argue that the Dark Knight trilogy is arguably one of the best trilogies of all time. In terms of superhero movies, it's definitely the best superhero trilogy, and I think that trilogy of films is so influential on a lot of stuff, but especially the superhero genre. You can see it from all sorts of stuff, whether it's Arrow, whether it's Spider-Man movies like the Amazing Spider-Man films, whether it's some of the DC movies themselves. You can feel the tone of the Dark Knight trilogy and the approach in those movies and those TV shows. Now, whether or not they do them successfully, that's debatable, but you can't deny that a film series like that hasn't had a major impact, because it has. The Dark Knight especially is so influential. The realism of those movies, the fact that it feels gritty, down to earth, realistic, like, again, that's gone on to inspire so much, and I think it's such a shame that DC managed to get that so right, yet when it came to the crunch and establishing all of their characters, they just didn't manage to do it. So for me, Marvel wins. Easy. And again, there's going to be some people out there who are just like, oh, but DC's movies are so much better. That's fine, that's your opinion. I'm not saying that DC's movies are shit, because I like a lot of DC movies. I just think as a whole, you can't deny that what Marvel has done is unheard of, basically. And they've done it with quality movies. Endgame, Infinity War, well, all the Avengers movies, maybe not Age of Ultron, Iron Man, Civil War, The Winter Soldier, like Thor Ragnarok, Guardians of the Galaxy. All of these movies are fantastic, but they've also managed to build their own universe out of it as well. Who the fucking hell would have thought that we'd have a Guardians of the Galaxy movie at all, but that it was also good and also incredibly successful? Who knew who the Guardians of the Galaxy were 15 years ago? I'll wait, because the answer is fucking none of you. But in the comments below though, guys, let me know what you think in terms of movies. Who wins it for you? Is it Marvel? Is it DC? Let me know in the comments, like I say. If you enjoyed this video, make sure you leave a like on it, subscribe for more. Social media and Patreon links will be in the description below, as always, so if you would follow me on any of those things, I would absolutely love you forever. But till next time, guys, you take care of yourselves. Goodbye.